Hello everyone. Welcome to fifth lecture of CS 531 Memory Systems and Architecture. Today we'll discuss some more basics about memory technologies. In previous classes, I have explained you two types of memory technologies: SRAM and SRAM technology and DRAM technology. Some other memory technologies also will discuss in this lecture. Because what I'm thinking that at the beginning of this course, some basics should be clear. So these basics are not written in any book, specifically any textbook. So you have to follow whatever the reference I'm sharing. So at the end of today's lecture, I'll give you some study material. You have to read those study material, and then you will understand these concept properly. But before starting today's lecture, there is a announcement. An announcement is it you have to decide your term paper group. There is, as I have mentioned at the beginning, that each group must have two students. If it in special case, maybe you can go for one candidate. That is fine, but you have to take my permission if you want to do your term paper alone. Otherwise, form a group of two people. And by next week, what I will do, I'll share an Excel sheet where you have to put the details of your group, the details of your group members and all. And also, but you no need to select topic by next week. The complete next week, this week as well as next week, I'll discuss some basic things, some interesting area of research. Like I'll discuss briefly some research of replacement policy, some research on prefetching, some research on DRAM refresh. In short, I will explain, and then based on this, you decide which area you want to do your term paper. And the technique that I'll discuss today, for example, EDRAM and non-volatile memories, these are also very interesting things. So today's lecture as well as the lecture that I'll upload tomorrow, these two lectures are also interesting, and you can also consider to do term paper in these areas. And as I have updated a post in Google Classroom today morning, that you no need to worry much about term paper, because I'll give you enough time to decide your the idea. It's not like that the by I'll you will choose your term paper by mid by February, and then within 15 days you have to propose a new idea. It's not like this, because since there is already a delay of 1 week. So I'm thinking that I'll give you complete the month of March to read existing paper, and then you have to decide by end of March. You have to decide by end of the March. If you think that you need some more time, then that also I'll give you. Maybe in our case, I'll give you time till 15th of April to decide your proposal. Once your proposal is decided, then you have to go for simulator. Simulator will be fixed. Either you'll go for GemSim, or if you go for DRAM Sim 2 or Remulator. So there will be another tutorial based on your requirement. If you guys want to work on DRAM and you need to understand DRAM Sim 2 or Remulator, then we will also conduct a tutorial on these simulators. So there will be enough help from our side to explain you how simulator works. So I hope you can, even if you start from mid-April, there you will get at least you will get 20 days to implement. So what I am expecting from your side is a solid proposal. Why a solid proposal? Because if you know, if the proposal is solid, then, and in that case, if your implementation is not complete, I'll consider it. I'll consider it. Why? Because in that case, during the summer, we'll complete the work and we'll submit it for publication. Because without publication, if your effort in term paper will not reflect properly, right? So what I am expecting, that if you do a good term paper, we'll publish it in summer. If there is some work remain, we'll do it in summer. Okay. So let us start today's lecture. The main concept of this subject, that is memory systems and architecture, is memory. What is memory? What do you mean by memory, and how we store information in memory? So mainly, as I said, in computer, informations are considered in binary, either 0 and 1. So the main concept here is how we can store one binary information in computer memory. So far, we have in this course we have studied two memory technologies. One is SRAM and another is DRAM. So I'm not going to explain these two concepts again here because you know how how a SRAM cell looks and how a DRAM cell looks. Also, the term cell here is also familiar to you. Here the term cell means how to store one bit of information in SRAM technology. When I am saying about DRAM cell, that means the technology needs to store one bit of information in DRAM. So both SRAM cell and DRAM cell are familiar to you. But today we will discuss some other technologies of memory, not just SRAM and DRAM, some other kind of technologies. Basically, we will cover EDRAM, that is embedded DRAM, and some non-volatile memories. They are not the same thing. They are two different categories. Embedded DRAM and NVM are completely different type of memory technologies, but still we will discuss all these technologies today. We are not discussing these memory technologies in detail as we have discussed SRAM as well as DRAM. Basically, what I'm expecting from your side is just to know how these memory technologies works. That's it. For example, you know how a DRAM cell works, that everything is stored as a form of charge, right? My expectation is you should know how these memory technologies work that I will discuss today. Let's start our today's lecture. So let us start with the disadvantage of SRAM and DRAM. Then only we will realize that why other memory technologies are also important. All this disadvantage mentioned here is known to you. Nothing is new here. The disadvantage of SRAM: required 6 transistors per SRAM cell. Low density creates significant area overhead. High leakage power consumption and volatile memory. So all these points are familiar to you. So the main problem here is this low density. Why low density? Because it takes 6 transistors for part cell. Since there are 6 transistors required part cell, so density is low, and in a particular cheap area, you can only place a smaller size SRAM memory because of its low density, and it has high leakage power consumption. And we know it that cache memory has higher leakage. In cache memory, leakage power is a major problem or major issue, and it's volatile. I'll not explain what is volatile here. I am you know what is called volatile. So SRAM is a volatile memory. Of course, there are a lot of advantages of SRAM. That's why still we are mostly use SRAM as cache memories. But I'm not discussing the advantages here. I'm only discussing about the negative side. That means the disadvantages here. So don't think that these are the disadvantage of SRAM. So SRAM is not a good memory technology. It's still a better memory technologies than any other technologies. Disadvantage of DRAM: destructive read operation. This is the one of the major disadvantages of DRAM. Can you guess what is written as destructive read operation? Destructive read operation means in DRAMs from DRAM cell, after you read a data, after reading a data, the content of the cell is destroyed. And I think you have observed it. If you want to read a content of a DRAM row, and when you activate this row, the content will be available in row buffer, but at the same time, they are discharging from the row. That is called destructive read operation. So in this type of memories, destructive read, where the read operation is destructive, it needs some more time after activating this row to restore the data back into the row. And I have explained it many times in case of DRAM. So this is the major disadvantage of DRAM. Other disadvantages are very familiar to you. Required periodic refresh to restore the data. Nothing to explain new here. High leakage power consumption as compared to other main memory technologies. Yes, as compared to other main memory technologies that we will discuss today, DRAM has higher leakage power consumption. And again, DRAM is a volatile memory. So both SRAM and DRAM are volatile memories. And one more important thing that I have already mentioned, that both DRAM and SRAM has advantage also. But here we are not discussing advantage. Please keep it in mind. So other memory technologies are also explored as alternative of both cache and main memories because of these disadvantages of SRAM and DRAM. So in this slide, all the memory technologies that we'll discuss today, I'll tell them just as other memory technologies. From next slide, I'll try to explain them separately. But whenever I say other memory technologies, please keep it in mind that whatever memory technology we'll discuss today are other memory technologies, mainly embedded DRAM and some non-volatile memories. Memory design possible in a computer. For example, suppose if this is the memory and this part is cache memory and this part is main memory. So this is a classic type of memory design where cache is designed with SRAM and memory means main memory here. So and main memory is designed with DRAM. This is a very well-known design structure that we normally follow in most of our computers now, even today. This is also another kind of design possible where cache memory is designed in a combination of SRAM and other memory technologies. And main memory is also designed as a DRAM and other memory technologies. These type of designs are called hybrid memory, and this is a very well-known research area in our memory technologies, that how to design an efficient hybrid memory in both cache as well as main memory. So they are here different combination may be possible. Here you can also say that the cache memory is hybrid. That means cache memory is designed with SRAM and some other memory technologies, but main memory is only DRAM. Or the cache memory is with only SRAM and main memory is with the combination of DRAM and some other memory technologies. So different types of combination is possible, and all these combinations are called hybrid memory technologies. We know the advantage of SRAM. SRAM is fast, but we also know the disadvantage of SRAM. So if some of these disadvantages can be removed by using a part of other memory technologies, then it will become a better memory technology or better cache memory. That's why the hybrid memory designs are very popular nowadays. And if you are planning to work on cache main memories or cache memories, or in memory architecture, then you can also do research in this area, hybrid memory technology. There are a lot of people working in this area. In this course, I'll try to explain two three paper of hybrid cache memory design in next week. This is another type of design. This is another extreme design where you can see that cache memory is only designed with other memory technologies and not with SRAM. This is also possible. People are exploring it. And also the main memory is designed with completely some other memory technologies and not just DRAM. This is also a possibility and people are exploring it. It may be possible that cache memory is still in with SRAM and main memory is designing with some other technologies, or the cache memory designing with other technologies and main memory is still with DRAM. All these different possibilities is possible, but here the main point is people are not just concentrating on SRAM and DRAM technologies for designing memories. People are also concentrating on other different technologies to design the memories of a computer. They are doing it because of the disadvantage of SRAM and DRAM that I have discussed in this slide. As I have mentioned in my first slide today, that there are two types of memory we will discuss. In the first type, we will discuss embedded DRAM, it's called EDRAM, and then we'll discuss magnetoresistive RAM, that is MRAM, then transport torque RAM, that is STT-RAM, then phase change memories PCM. So I'll not discuss MRAM in details because STT-RAM is an extra means is a new version or a updated version of MRAM only. So the internal memory technologies is almost similar. Only the difference is in the means write operations. There is a difference between the first one, this is EDRAM, and the remaining three. The remaining three here, the last three memory technologies are actually non-volatile memory technologies, and we normally call them NVM. And EDRAM is not, it is again a volatile memory. So let's start with embedded DRAM or EDRAM. So embedded DRAM is a capacitor-based dynamic RAM that can be integrated on the same die as the processor. Nothing new here, it is same as DRAM. Only difference here is we can integrate this memory on the same die of the processor. That means the term that we have discussed in class, that is called CMP before mid-sem, that is chip multiprocessor, where multiple processing unit and memory modules can be placed within a single die. So that is called CMP. So one of this module which we place in a single die of CMP, that module can be a DRAM also, and that is called embedded DRAM. EDRAM are mainly used to design the last level cache of modern CMPs, and they are placed in the top layer or in a 3D in 3D ICs. If you remember, I have explained a paper when I was explaining DRAM refresh, which is called temperature aware refresh, where if you see the paper again, you'll see they have used a 3D CMP or 3D IC where the bottom layer has the core and L1, L2 caches, and the upper layer has LLCs, which is designed with the embedded DRAM. If you remember, the original that we call commodity DRAM technology has one transistor and one capacitor. That means this 1T, 1C. One of the major disadvantage of this type of cell is the destructive read operation that I have already explained. That when we read something from this cell, the content of this cell is discharged, and we have to restore it back. So in EDRAM can be either designed with 1T, 1C type of cell, like this type of cell. This cell is very known to you. This is called commodity DRAM cell. And so 1T means one transistor and one capacitor is required here. So using this type of design, the cell also you can design commodity means embedded DRAM. That is fine. Here embedded DRAM only means that it is embedded with the processor unit or the CMPs. That's why it's called embedded DRAM. And if we go for this, the advantage here is it is very high density because only one transistor and one capacitor is required. But the problem here, as I said, is the it is this destructive read operation. So there are some other type of DRAM cell also possible, which are called gain cell. Gain cell normally has more number of transistors compared to the commodity cell, and the number of transistor ranges from 2 to 4. This is an example of gain cell DRAM. So here you can see that the difference of this one commodity DRAM cell and gain cell is here there are two transistors using. This is one transistor and this is another transistor and this is capacitor. Again, the basic idea is same. Information is stored in form of charge here also, but you can see there are the each memory cell has two transistor instead of one transistor here. So the operation in EDRAM is straightforward and easy to understand. To write some information in EDRAM, this write memory line, this write bit line, the information must be available through this write bit line, and the write operation is performed through this transistor. This is called memory write transistor. So suppose if we want to write a binary one, that information must be available through this line, write bit line WVL, and to pass this information through this transistor we have to activate this write word line. So how to activate this write word line? See, there is a negation here, so that means we have to put this write word line in ground voltage or VGND. So if we put this in VGND, then this transistor will be activated. That means this transistor will be switched on, and the moment this transistor is switched on, whatever information we have is supplied here in WBL will be transferred through this line, and it will store here, it will charge in this capacitor. So this is the way we have to perform a write in embedded DRAM. Very straightforward. So it is easy to understand. The read operation is something different from the commodity DRAM cell. If you see here how to perform a read, so read are performed through read bit lines here. So how to perform read? Actually, reader perform through this transistor, that is memory read transistor. So to read a data from this capacitor, this read bit line will be first pre-charged to VDD, and after pre-charge to VDD, they are disconnected from the supply voltage. So now this line is full charged with VDD, and at the same time this line this row the read word line, this read word line is switched to VGND. So now this is the ground voltage, so this is put in VGND. So what I am saying, just concentrate this line to read, we are putting this line as VGND, and we are putting this as VDD. So this is VDD and this is VGND now. So what will happen? That depends on this switch. If this switch is on, then this VDD, this current will flows through this, and now this will become V 0. But if this switch is not on, then uh, this the VDD that initially this read word line, which is the VDD initially, that VDD cannot pass through this switch because this switch is off. So in this case, this VDD, this RVL will remain in VDD. That will consider as binary one. Or if the RVL change from VDD to zero, that we can consider as binary zero. So everything depends on this switch. So if when the SN is high or it is fully charged, then that charge is enough to switch this transistor on. So when this transistor will on, the pre-charge voltage of this RVL, that is VDD, will pass through this switch. And and since it is VDD, VGND, so ultimately this will become 0. So in this way, we can read a binary 0 from the DRAM, the EDRAM cell. When this capacitor is not charged, so at that time, the charge in the capacitor is not enough to switch this transistor. So if switch on this transistor, and if the switch on is not possible, then the initial charge here, that is VDD, will remain here. It cannot pass through this. So, and this is this in this case is called binary 1. So you can see there is a difference of read here. Here fully charged capacitor means binary 0 here. So in our case, in commodity DRAM cell, we mainly discuss that fully charged is binary 1, but here fully charged is binary 0. And no charge means binary 1. So the EDRAM cell that we have just explained is a 2T1 or 2 transistor 1 capacitor cell. You can see there are two transistors here. There are some other type of EDRAM also possible. If you see here, in this gain cell has three transistors and one capacitor. But if we try to relate this design and this design, they are almost similar, and the read operation performance, technology is also similar. But how they are different, why they are using multiple transistor? Yes, it is because of supporting the advanced technologies and improving the retention time. And also, I'm not going in detail about why we need to go for two transistor, one capacitor, three transistor, one capacitor, or four transistor, one capacitor. I'll share a video at the end of this slide. If you want, you can read it, but I'm not expecting this from all these details for your exam. So what is the main advantage of all EDRAM compared to the commodity DRAM? The main advantage here, this of this gain cell DRAM, is that the read operation is not destructive. Remember this point, read operation here is not destructive. Here the read operation is destructive, but in this gain cell, the read operation is not destructive, and this is the main advantage of embedded DRAM. The energy consumption and area overhead is less than SRAM. If you compare this design and this design, then here the number of transistors are more. So obviously the density will be lesser than this design. So the gain cell has lesser density compared to commodity DRAM. But if we compare this gain cell with SRAM, then the density is still higher because the SRAM needs a 6 to 8 transistor per cell. But here you can see only two transistor and one capacitor is required. So density wise, it is better than SRAM. And the another advantage here is it over the DRAM cell here is it is the read operation is not destructive, so it will take less time to read. So because of this advantage, we use EDRAM, sorry, gain cell to design EDRAMs. But again, the basic problem of DRAM remains here, and basic problem is both commodity DRAM cell and gain cell are dynamic memory technology. That means if we store some charge in the capacitor, it will automatically discharge after some time. So periodic refresh has to be performed. There is no other alternative way. Both commodity DRAM cell and gain cell, periodic refresh also need to and must need to be performed. But EDRAM has another disadvantage also, and it's not just for a gain cell. It is also possible at commodity DRAM, because this disadvantage is not is actually related with embedded DRAM. That means when we use DRAM technology to design a memory module inside the CMP or inside the processor die, then the problem is, since the processor is normally the temperature of processor is higher, that's why the retention time of this embedded DRAM is very less. If you remember, in main memory the retention time is in 64 millisecond, but here it will be in microseconds in embedded DRAM. So if the retention time is less, that means we have to refresh these rows of this EDRAM rows, no matter the which technology you have used for EDRAM. It may be commodity or it may be gain cell, but you have to refresh this cell and very quickly, because now the retention time is in microsecond. But people are still designing or trying to replace SRAM with EDRAM to design the last level cache, mainly last level cache. And you will find lot of papers on this, that how to use EDRAM to design a last level cache or replace SRAM in for last level cache. Due to shortage of time, it is not possible to discuss all this paper here. If you are interested and if you want to do research in this area, you can read the related research paper and you can continue. This is also a very interesting research area. I think all these challenges written here for EDRAM is already explained. So let's just this is the last thing is structure of EDRAM. So you can consider the structure of EDRAM same as SRAM memories. So the designing of banks, sub banks, arrays, all these things are same as same as SRAM in EDRAM. Only thing here is EDRAM has to perform a auto refresh. Yes, one more important point that I missed here. If you see this gain cell as compared to commodity DRAM, there are two different bit line is there. One is for write bit line and one is for read bit line. So that means that since there are two different kind of bit lines here, write and read, so read and write can be performed independently in two different gain cell at the same time. So I'm saying, what I said here again, note it down, that I'm saying read and write can be performed simultaneously in two different gain cell at the same time. So this is a possible structure of EDRAM if we use it in a cache. So in this diagram is taken from this paper, most probably the last paper. So in this you can see that they have designed a L1 cache with EDRAM technology. So you can read this paper for more detail. So I'm stopping the concept of EDRAM here, and let's start the concept of non-volatile memory, that is NVM. So unlike charge-based memories such as DRAM, the non-volatile memories store data in form of change in physical state. So since when we write in the non-volatile memories, then we may need to change the physical state of this memory cell, and that's the reason the write operation is expensive in terms of both energy and time in non-volatile memories. In almost all the non-volatile memory technologies, write operation is expensive compared to read operation. Also, they have some write endurance limit, that which means that only a limited number of write operation can be performed in a particular cell. After that, this cell may damage. To read a data or to read a binary 0 or binary 1 from this cell, what will happen? A current will pass through this line, and that current will be observed here. If there is a very high resistance exist in this cell, then this current will not pass through this. So the very less current will pass through this line. So based on this, we can guess either it is binary 1 or 0. For example, if there is very less resistance exist in this cell, then whatever current we are passing through this line will almost the same current will get here. So in this way, they differentiate between binary 1 and binary 0, and this concept is almost similar in almost all the non-volatile memories. That's why they are called phase change. So suppose initially a binary 0 is stored here, which means resistance here is almost 0. And now I want to write a binary 1 in this cell instead of binary 0. Now I want to binary 1. So when I want to write binary 1, that means I have to change the means physical state. That means initially the current state of this cell is that the resistance is low. But if I want to store binary 1, that means I have to change the state of this physical state of this cell, and now I have to somehow increase the resistance of this cell. So this is the main technology we'll discuss there, how to reduce the resistance of this cell and how to increase the resistance of this cell by changing the physical state of this cell. And that is the main concept of non-volatile memories. So the structure of STD-RAM looks like this. I'm only concentrating on this figure number A. This is this figure. If you concentrate on this, this is a cell structure of STD-RAM. So in place of there is a, you can see a transistor here, and in place of the capacitor of DRAM cell, you can see this thing, magnetic tunnel junction, that is called MTJ. And if you see the magnetic tunnel junction, there are two ferromagnetic layers and separated by a barrier layer. So this is one ferromagnetic layer and this is another ferromagnetic layer, and in middle there is a barrier layer. The binary bits, that is it is 0 or 1, is represented by the resistance of MTJ. So here you can see that the magnetization direction of one layer is fixed, that is called reference layer. So in reference layer, the magnetization direction will be always in this direction. This is represented by black arrow. So it will be always fixed. But the magnetization direction of free layer is not fixed. If you see here, the magnetization direction can be either of this left or right. We can change it based on our requirement. And that is the main property of MTJ. So when maybe I should show you another diagram. This diagram will be more clear. So here this is a compact diagram. This is actually a clear picture of MTJ. Now this MTJ is represented with a small layer like this. So the two ferromagnetic layers are represented by black rectangles, and the white part is the this barrier layer in between. And out of these two black rectangle, that is ferromagnetic layer, one layer is reference layer. That means the reference layer has the magnetization direction of reference layer is always fixed. For example, in this side, in right side, this is always fixed. And as I said, the magnetization layer of free layer, that means one of this layer, this if this is reference layer, then this is the free layer. Remember this, what this diagram is actually the bigger picture of this diagram. These are the two ferromagnetic layers. One is reference layer where the magnetization direction will be always fixed. This is the barrier layer, and this is the free layer which we can change. So now the property of MTJ is when the magnetization direction of reference layer and free layer are in same, that is in parallel, then there will be very less resistance in this MTJ. And when the magnetization direction are in opposite, for example, if reference layer is in right side and the free layer, the direction of free layer is in left side, then there will be very high resistance. As I have explained in my last slide, these variation of resistance can be used to represent either binary 1 or binary 0. So we'll pass a current analysis and sense it, and if we are getting the same current, then when that it means the resistance was low. And if we are passing a current and we are not getting the exact current, that means the resistance is high. So based on this, we can separate either it is binary 0 or binary 1. The same concept will be applied here also. So suppose if this is the STT-RAM cell, to read the content of this cell, what will happen? We'll supply a small voltage between bit line and sense line, and then we'll sense the current flows through the MTJ. If the current flowing through the MTJ is high, that means there is low resistance. So maybe we can consider it as a binary 0. And if current flowing through this MTJ is low, that means there is high resistance. Maybe we can consider this as binary 1. We may also consider in the other way, but the concept is same. So writing in STDRAM is expensive because if you see here, the information is stored as a physical state. So if we were suppose the initial state is this is logic 0 when both are showing both magnetic direction of both ferromagnetic layer are parallel. So if this we can consider here as logic 0, then now if we want to store logic 1 in this cell, then somehow we have to change the magnetic layer of free layer from right side to left side like this. So from changing the physical state from this to this, need to pass a very high current through this MTJ. So that is expensive in terms of energy consumption as well as in time. We change it from 0 to 1, we have to supply the current in one direction, and if we want to change the logic or the cell from 1 to 0, then we may need to supply current in a different direction. And the main intention here is to change the direction, magnetic direction of free layer, and then only we can change it, or then only we can write a bit here. That's why writing is always expensive in STT-RAM. So I have shown you different STT-RAM's cell structure. All these cell structures are collected from different paper. The sources are mentioned here. So ultimately, the main content is same in all this diagram. So at the end of today's presentation, in the last slide, I'll give you some sources from where you need to read the basic concept of STT-RAM. Again, I'm saying that you no need to go for detailed explanation or understanding of STT-RAM. Only the basic That means how STT-RAM operates, how it can read, how we can read from STT-RAM, how we can write from STT-RAM will be enough for this course. So all this concept of STT-RAM, whatever written in this slide, I have already explained in previous slides. So I'm not explaining it here. You can read it, and I hope you will easily understand what is written here. The advantage here is it's a non-volatile memory. This is the first advantage, and the second advantage is again here is it's the read operation is not destructive. Another third advantage is no periodic refreshes required like dynamic memories as a DRAM or EDRAM cell. And another important advantage here is the density of STT-RAM is much lesser than DRAM. A very important advantage of non-volatile memory is one cell can store multiple bits here, which is not possible in DRAM cell. Why? Because based on this current that is passing through, if the it can sense different resistance levels, and each resistance level can be considered as one binary bit. So, which is the unique property of non-volatile memories. But only problem or only disadvantage of STT-RAM is its write operation, and also there is write operation is expensive and energy consuming. But if we compare STT-RAM with other non-volatile memories that I have not explained yet, but in the next slide I'll explain PCM and RAM. So if we compare the STT-RAM with other non-volatile memory technologies like PCM or RAM, then STT-RAM is better in terms of write endurance. As I said, all this non-volatile memory has some problem with write endurance because there are you can only write perform limited number of writes in each cell. But still, if you compare STT-RAM with other non-volatile technologies, then it has very high write endurance, and that is the reason why people are using STT-RAM to design cache memories, and they are trying to replace SRAM technology with STT-RAM technologies for cache memories. Many researchers are working in designing cache memories, especially large level cache with STT-RAM, and this is a very interesting area of research. It is not possible to discuss all the areas in detail in this course, but if you want, you can just pick any of this direction and continue your research. Phase change memory is also the basic idea is same here. You can see here there is a material called GST is used here. This is the material called GST, and this GST is surrounded by two metal layer here. This is the one layer and this is another layer. You can see there is a heater here. So now these GST it can state it can change its state by based on the heat supplied through this line. So it can be either in liquid state or it can be either in crystal state, and it shows different resistance in different states. And if we somehow we can change the resistance from low resistance, then we can consider it as zero. If we can change the state as high resistance, then we may consider it as binary one, or vice versa. So based on this concept, that is based on this GST, whose physical state can be changed by applying some heat here, we can we can store either binary one and binary zero. So this is the main concept of PCM. I'm not explaining it in more detail. You can read it, you'll understand it. All the non-volatile memories has low write endurance limit as compared to SRAM and DRAM, but the write endurance of PCM is even lesser than STT-RAM. And because of this, PCM is rarely used to design cache memories, and PCM is only considered as an alternative of main memory design and not for cache memories. This is a design of this is one cell and there are multiple cell, or you can say this is a array or subarray designed with PCM cells. This design is same as with any other memory like SRAM, DRAM, so I'm not explaining it, you'll understand it. So these are the main challenges of PCM. Most of these challenges are I have already explained, so I'm not explaining it again. You read it, you will understand. So this table compares the different memory technologies that we have studied in this course. Some of these memory technologies are not discussed in class. For example, the RAM I have not explained in detail. DWM I have not explained. But just remember that RAM and STT-RAM is almost similar. But since I have not explained it, let me just hide these two parameters. So that's the table. So all these technologies I have already explained. One more technology that I have not here is DRAM. So if we collect one more table, the sources of this table are mentioned here. So this is another table, and if you see this table, then here DRAM is also there, but in this table the EDRAM is missing. So now we'll combine these two table and try to analyze all the technologies. So as I mentioned in my lecture that STT-RAM and EDRAM both are used mainly to consider as an alternative of SRAM. That means both EDRAM and STT-RAM are used to design cache memories. This is more mainly the last level cache. So let us just compare SRAM, EDRAM, and STT-RAM and not PCM. We'll compare PCM with DRAM. Why? Because both PCM and DRAM are used for main memory design. So if you see the density here, I need to mention here that lesser the cell size, higher the density. That means if the cell size is less, that means within a particular chip area, we can put more number of cells. That's why lesser the cell size, higher the density. So in this case, if we compare these three parameters, mainly the technologies which modern day people use to design cache memories, STT-RAM has the highest density, and then EDRAM, and lastly SRAM. So this is in terms of density. So now if we go for write endurance, then these SRAM and EDRAM both has the same write endurance, but STT-RAM has lesser write endurance as compared to uh, these SRAM and EDRAM. But if we compare STT-RAM with other non-volatile memories, for example, just try to compare STT-RAM with PCM for write endurance. See, this is the write endurance limit of STT-RAM, and this is the write endurance limit of PCM, and that is the reason that because of very low write endurance, PCM is not used as the alternative of SRAM. Speed of read write, you can see SRAM read write is fast. Embedded DRAM also read write. SRAM is very fast. EDRAM is also can be considered fast. And when we go for STT-RAM, only read is fast but write is slow. I have already explained why write is slow, because we may need to change the physical state, or we may need to change the magnetization direction of the free layer in STT-RAM. That's why write is slow. Leakage power, in terms of leakage power, SRAM is very high, EDRAM is medium, and STRAM is almost zero. Dynamic energy is in SRAM it is low, in EDRAM it is medium, in STRAM it is low and high. Why low and high? Because in case of read in STRAM, dynamic energy is low, but in case of write in STT-RAM, it is high. In STT-RAM, leakage energy is almost zero, it is very less. But in case of dynamic energy, write is expensive, both in terms of speed and both in types of speed and dynamic energy. Just consider speed and dynamic energy. In both cases, write is expensive in STT-RAM. Retention period is not required. Retention period is only required in DRAM or dynamic cell like EDRAM and DRAM. It is not required in all non-volatile memories. So now if we compare PCM and DRAM, again see that the density of PCM or DRAM is higher than PCM, or you can say they are almost similar. Density of DRAM and PCM are almost similar, but there is a write endurance limit. See, the write endurance limit of DRAM is very high compared to PCM, but the advantage of PCM is leakage power. If you see the leakage power of DRAM, here also leakage power is medium, but leakage power, if you see here, PCM is low, very low, almost zero. So that's why the PCM is also considered as an alternative of DRAM. Another advantage of PCM over DRAM is, though it looks like that the density of both are almost similar, but we have to understand that in PCM, one particular cell can store more than one binary bits, which is not possible in DRAM. I hope all these concepts are clear to you now. And all this, the concept that I have discussed today, it is not required to study it in detail as we have studied in case of SRAM and DRAM. You only need to know the basics of these memory technologies, how read write operations are performed in these technologies, and what are their basic property. And these are the study material that I'm giving you. For EDRAM, you read these initial two papers, but don't worry, you no need to read the entire paper. I'm just giving you a small section to read. So for example, see the green color. So from first paper, you only need to read these two sections. They are very small section, hardly one or 1.5 page. So, and the same thing here. So from this paper, you just read section 1 and 2. That's it for EDRAM. And if you want to know more about EDRAM, you can see this lecture also. The first 10 minutes of this video will be enough. And for other memory technologies, mainly the for non-volatile memory technologies, these are the references you have to read. But again, I am specifically mentioned in green text that which particular section you have to read from all this paper. So you hardly you need to spend 2 hours here. I'm also sharing the PPT with this video so that it will be easy for you to search those papers as well as the link mentioned in this video. Thank you for watching this lecture. Take care.